salió nuevo gameplay. Vamos a verlo, Crimson Desert. Obvio, hay que verlo. Esto, no les voy a mentir, vimos, ¿qué fue lo que vimos aquí de Crimson Desert? Creo que fue, si no me equivoco, habíamos visto una pelea con, diantre, ¿cómo era que se llamaba? Déjame buscarla aquí. Vamos a buscar el canal aquí rápido, a ver cómo era que se llamaba. Rapidito ahí. Me tenía uno aquí abierto. Content, ¿cómo era que se llamaba la peleita? Live, dame el... Fueron 3 que vimos, a raya, allá arriba ahí. Pam, pam, pam. ¿Qué fue lo que vimos aquí? Crimson Desert, para acá abajo. Vimos al Queenstone, qué sé yo, Backcrab. Eso era como si fuera un boss bien grande, bien exagerado, en verdad estaba cool. Esta peleita estuvo buena, que fue el Whitehorn. Para mí, los dos mejores fueron Red Devil. Red Devil Boss. Y el otro era, ¿dónde está? Míralo aquí. Stark Lord. La pelea con Stark Lord estuvo salvaje. Vamos a ver esto en verdad. Déjame ponerle pausa a la musiquita y vamos a ver esto rapidito. By the way, cuando estábamos viendo los otros videitos, eso sí, no dieron mucho detalle de cómo era el open world. No dieron detalle de cómo iba a funcionar esta mecánica del mundo, misiones, etcétera. A qué juego se iba a parecer Elden Ring. Pero parece ser que esto es un Zelda Assassin's Creed. Vamos a ver. Vamos a subirle esto a escuchar. Esa es la pelea de Stark Lord. Que by the way, esto es
exagerado. The bosses in Crimson Desert are powerful. I mean, really powerful. As the formidable Stag Lord grabbed me by the ankle and hurled me into a wall,
¡bang! Diantre, la rompeespalda.
Reminded me of how the strangest blows catapulted Kratos through
no
tree
voy a
trunks.
mentir, estos bosses se ven bien exagerados de lo que viene siendo este jueguito de Crimson Desert. By the way, estamos en quality, vamos para acá, 4K. Mira, ¿por qué no lo estamos viendo en 4K?
And mountains in God of War.
Esa pelea
This intense, deity-like
intensa.
physicality lends Crimson Desert's battles a sense of genuine spectacle. These are the gladiator battles of myths. Last month, during an hour-long hands-on session at Gamescom 2024, I was able to go toe-to-toe with 3 different bosses, each of which showcased a different side to this fantasy action game's approach to battle.
Los 3 bosses que vimos, by the way, en el showcase. Perdón, sí, creo que fue el showcase que los vimos.
I was able to watch another hour of gameplay, this time a hands-off demonstration focused on exploration and questing.
Okay.
Together, these demos have given me a good indication of what Crimson Desert is. A game with combat that feels like a mix of God of War and Dragon's Dogma, set in a wider world where what you do is more reminiscent of the modern Assassin's Creeds and The Witcher 3. You play as Cliff.
No se ve mal, no les voy a mentir. Incluso, puede que se vea mejor, okay, puede que se vea mejor que Assassin's Creed. ¿En qué sentido? En que literalmente el combate se ve más fresh. Yo no voy a mentir, en verdad. Yo no sé si ustedes han visto el combate de Assassin's Creed, el nuevo, o sea, Shadows. Corillo. No, vamos a ir con esto, dale.
Warrior with a gruff Scottish accent and a no-nonsense attitude. After a prologue establishes a bloody conflict between the Greymanes and the marauding Black Bears, Cliff's major goal is made clear. Explore the continent of Pywell in search of his surviving Greymane allies who have been scattered following the battle.
Okay.
The bulk of the hands-off demonstration is set in Hernand, a medieval town populated by a fun range of fantasy races that wouldn't look out of place in any...
Después que tú me des loot, para yo seguir ahí, mira, indagando, olvídate.
Tolkien-esque fantasy story. Cliff's interactions around its very beautifully rendered streets and roads are very much what you'd expect of a modern open-world action-adventure game. There's a horse you can whistle for, NPCs to be spoken to, and hostile regions to infiltrate. That last one is where Crimson Desert has a little fun, as the demo
super parecido a Ghost of Tsushima.
shows Cliff changing into Hernandian banquet attire in order to walk past a castle's guards unnoticed.
Oh,
okay.
Wait.
Puedes engañar a los guardias y todo.
Where he got it. We don't look like the troublemaking type. Right, he can pass then.
Mira ese gigante allá atrás.
Much like how you can wear disguises in games like Hitman and Kingdom Come Deliverance. I hope there are plenty of opportunities to do this, and various outcomes to your trickery. It would be fun if you could use disguises to open up new conversations, as well as gain entry into forbidden areas. Inside the castle, Cliff pilfers an
irnos
abyss
stealth.
artifact, which is where Crimson Desert gets a little more unusual. The device opens up a pixelated portal in a wall, and walking through it transports Cliff to the Library of Providence. There, an alchemist called Alaston reveals that the library is at the center of all worlds, and that there are beings who plan to bring everything.
So, después que no me den puzzles tan difícil como los de Zelda, yo sé que hay gente que le gustan, que es bien fácil, pero diantre. Bueno, vaya, esos puzzles de Zelda están bien intensos.
What is the reason you brought me here?
There are beings who brought chaos to Providence. The rifts they have created will return everything to nothingness.
While I can't say I'm impressed by Crimson Desert's writing in this demo, this exchange and several others feel cluttered and wrapped up in themselves. But it does point to a much grander, more mythical plot beyond Cliff's hunt for his allies. That ambition of something larger is made abundantly clear when
Honestamente, se ve bastante lindo. Se ve prometedor.
Alaston's ally, White Crow,
Y el combate
gives
se ve
Cliff the
prometedor.
glider-like Crow Wings ability,
Un poquito
which
de
allows him to leap
historia.
off the
Si no
library's
se quieren
floating
spoilear,
island and reenact the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's title
Echarle un poquito a las
sequence.
historias. Yo en verdad me enfoco un poquito más en lo que es lo visual y toda la historia. No estoy prestando mucha atención porque no me quiero spoilear, honestamente. Flow Zelda, pero qué exagerado. ¿Qué? Damn. Vamos a ver
It's a little
ese
bold to use this
Ya, pero
motif.
enséñame el
Can
open world.
Developer Pearl Abyss really craft something that lives up to
Dios mío, gracias. Vamos a ver
the
qué
wider
tan
meaning
grande.
of
Sí,
that
pero-
iconic
Ya, no
visual?
enseñó
But
mucho.
even if it falls short, the magnificent view and subsequent glide to Earth is a thrill all the same. Back on the ground in Hernand, a
Este
local
juego tiene
peacekeeper
potencial.
tasks Cliff with finding
Se
and
ve hermoso.
eliminating some local bandits who fight using a red mist. Heading out in search of such villains, Cliff comes across a burning house and throws nearby vases of water to save the clergyman trapped inside. It's not clear from the demo if such objectives organically occur around the map, Red Dead Redemption 2 style, but what is soon clear is that this blaze is the work of those aforementioned
Eso sería interesante. Él dice que no sabe si estos live events, él está pasando, se quemó, fue a ayudar, que es como Red Dead Redemption si son random. Sería interesante que este juego tenga eventos random cada tanto tiempo porque hace que sea más divertido y seguir volviendo a hacer cosas. Mira, queremos ir a buscar aquí esto. Ah, apareció un evento ahí. Pam, vamos a meterle. Ah, apareció otra cosa. Vamos para allá a hacerlo. ¿Por qué no? Para mí eso hace que se sienta más vivo. Mucho más vivo el juego. Que, o sea, que si tiene estos NPC, no. O sea, para mí lo que es Dark Souls, Demon Souls, están súper exagerados. Pero hay NPC que tú sabes que siempre van a estar ahí. Cuando tú creas estos NPC y estos eventos live event, hace que se sienta más vivo el universo. Para mí, mi pensar. Vamos allá.
bandits. The local church says one of their men, Hubert, fled the scene in an attempt to bait the enemies away, and asks Cliff to find him. The payment is another one of those Abyss artifacts, once again suggesting that the worlds beyond worlds are of vital importance to Crimson Desert's story. I hope this results in a decent amount of weirdness that helps set the largely typical setting apart from other fantasy games.
Se ve un juego bastante extenso, no se ve un jueguito de esos de... Ah, lo acabaste
Hubert
en
is found
30
at a
horas.
bandit camp that allows the demo to show
Bueno,
off
debe
Cliff's
haber
stealth
gente.
abilities. It's pretty classic stuff and looks very reminiscent of Silent Takedowns in the Assassin's Creed games. Not particularly challenging, but an alternative option to Crimson Desert's more publicised melee brawls. Hopefully when we go hands-on again, stealth will prove a worthwhile addition rather than a shallow tacked-on extra. With her
No, no se ve como el stealth de Star Wars Outlaw. No se ve así de mal. By the way,
Herbert
a
Freed,
mí me
Cliff
encantan
is
los
approached
juegos
by the Goblin
de esta
Shakatu,
era.
a
Me
merchant
encantan los
of the
tanques,
Gold
so
Leaves Guild. He explains that the Gold
esto se
Leaves
ve
are
bien.
currently under the command of the evil Splithorn. In return for killing this toxic leader, Shakatu offers money and his services, things Cliff believes will be helpful in finding the missing Greymanes.
I merely wish us to turn over a new leaf. A return
La
to our
narrativa
former
se
glory.
ve cool.
Arriving at the Gold Leaf camp, it quickly becomes
¿Qué?
clear how
Pateao.
all these quests
Pateao.
relate. The Goblin Guards use red mist as part of their battle tactics, and so reveal themselves as the very same miscreants that were causing trouble for the
Mira.
people of Hernand.
Acho, me
And so
encanta
Splithorn's death not only
el
allows Shakatu
combat.
to take over and help Cliff, but also fulfills the task set by the Peacekeeper back in town. I
Nice.
hope Crimson Desert features
Mira.
plenty more of these overlapping storylines and forms a wider narrative that feels enjoyably
Nice. Este
interlaced.
juego-
That would certainly make up for the uneven quality of the writing shown in the demo.
Este juego se ve prometedor.
Kill him!
Split Horn acts as the culminating boss fight of the hands-off demo, which brings us to the much more exciting side of Crimson Desert. He's agile and aggressive, wielding a sword that emits blasts of wind in vertical and horizontal patterns, forcing Cliff to dodge and block as he attempts to close the distance. But he's a pipsqueak compared to the brutes I face myself in the hands-on demo at Gamescom. The first of the 3 bosses I clashed with was the Stag Lord. He's a relentless attacker, charging across the battlefield like a bullet train that can suplex you at its final destination. But despite his endless strength and capacity to throw you like a baseball, he's only human. I forced distance between us, quickly firing explosive arrows to knock him out of his attack pattern and open up a window to bury my blade in his back. The Stag Lord proves a real challenge of a fight. Crimson Desert is not even remotely as Souls-like, but it's not afraid to make you work really hard for victory. I spend much of the lengthy fight learning the
No es un Souls game. Y qué bueno que no es un Souls game. Qué bueno que esto no es un Souls game, porque no es que sea malo que haya Souls game, pero ¿en serio? ¿Sabes? Yo creo que estaban saliendo al año 30 Souls game. A ver cuál de todos era el mejor. Y es como que, corillo, bájenle que les va a pasar como a los Battle Royale. ¿Sabes? Se van a quemar. Después nadie los va a querer jugar.
Combat system. Similar to this year's Dragon's Dogma 2, there's no lock-on, and so I have to be mindful of where I position Cliff and where his sword will land. Rolling forward allows me to instantly follow up with a sweep kick that surprises my foe, and then hitting both the light and heavy attack buttons.
En verdad está tallando un poco la pelea. Ya yo la vi. Hizo un streaming, by the way, de esta pelea.
Together unleashes a wide, particle effect spraying strike that cleaves a chunk out of the Stag Lord's health bar. All this is speedy without sacrificing weight. It feels fantastic, but it's also easy to let things run away from you. I soon realize I need to be chowing down on health-restoring food with addiction-like frequency.
Zumba. Corillo, nosotros tenemos, pues, obvio, el YouTube, que no es pago. Mira, vaya, el mouse se me apagó, en serio. Vamos a mutear esto aquí. Diantre, literalmente ese jueguito lo que viene es a dar cátedra. No es mentira, se ve bastante bien. Ah, toma lo tuyo. Ya llegamos. Ah, ¿y qué pasó? Papi, esto se acabó ya. Estoy cansado. Tengo que ir a comerme algo.
With the Stag Lord defeated, I take his mighty sword and shield, and the demo skips me ahead in the story, throwing me into snow-coated lands. Here, Cliff is looking.
Pregunta seria. ¿Podemos coger espadas diferentes, escudos diferentes? Sería bastante interesante ver, o sea, ya que se puede cambiar la ropa, escudo, bow, asumo que sí.
Seemingly being sacrificed to some kind of mountain spirit. Such a spirit turns out to be the White Horn, a sort of antlered, abominable snow deer that acts as the first showcase of just how different each of Crimson Desert's bosses can be. This colossal creature moves like a bucking bronco, and its galloping charges cause the mountains around us to break out in miniature avalanches that leave me temporarily frozen in place. Thankfully, after striking it so much that its white fur is stained almost completely red, I'm able to clamber onto its back in the fight's second phase and stab away at its flesh. The moment once again had me recalling my battles with towering monsters in Dragon's Dogma 2 earlier
Las peleas de los bosses se ven bien. Esa no vi eso, yo no vi eso.
Unlike the little split horn back at the Goblin camp, these much larger bosses have 3 health bars, with each one eliminated increasing the intensity of the fight. But where
tenemos 3, ¿qué? ¿Están viendo eso? Son 3. Azul, verde y después rojo. No hay más de 3. La chara viene y se tiran. No, tenemos un Legendary, son 5. ¿Qué? Vamos a ver esto.
The Stag Lord and White Horn scraps seem to escalate much like many other action game boss battles. My final battle against the Queen Stoneback Crab demonstrated Crimson Desert's ambition to create memorable moments through very different mechanics. The Queen Stoneback Crab is colossally big. It fills the screen, and smartly, you can't fight it by just hacking away at its shins. Instead, the battle is a puzzle set piece that's clearly inspired by Shadow of the Colossus. I clamber onto the...
Este juego tiene una mezcla, Shadow of the Colossus, ponle Assassin's Creed un poco, ponle que se parece también a Zelda un poco, también se parece a The Witcher un poco, diantre, hasta yo me atrevería a decir que tiene un flow de lo que es Final Fantasy en cuestión de cómo se ve el mundo, ¿sabes? El garden, entonces, me la se ve bien.
Crab's stony shell
tiene inspiración de todo el mundo por ahí.
Its fur, holding on for dear life,
Final Fantasy 16, by the way, se veía algo parecido a este juego.
Using a special punch skill, I shatter each of the
Asumo que
rocks
este
to
obvio
expose
mucho
a
más
weak point
expansivo,
that
mucho
I
más grande
plunge
el
my
mapa.
blade into. Each open wound causes a geyser of water to blast out, which not only provides a visual spectacle, but also throws me high into the air. From above, I'm able to float down using the Crow Wings ability and plan on how to tackle the next stage.
no recuerdo cuándo
Now I'm
salió
tasked
Final
with destroying
16.
the pottery-like crown at the peak of the Crab's Mountain-like shell.
No,
A
16,
task
no, perdón, el
completed by
15.
swinging Spider-Man style from a web and colliding with the pottery at full speed. It's all delightfully bonkers.
Papi, se fue. Eso quedó bien exagerado, en
My
verdad.
hour-long
Ese
session
finishing.
wasn't quite long enough to try all
y el
4 of the
gliding.
bosses the demo had to offer, but a video presentation provided a quick insight into the only one I missed, the Reed Devil, a weird little guy who creates copies of himself that can only be defeated by destroying
Ese está
totems
súper
that are
exagerado
built during the
también.
battle.
Ese lo
Along
vi.
with the 3 I fought, all 4 bosses make a promise that Crimson Desert features an array of creative, unique centerpiece
La pregunta es,
battles.
¿cuántos bosses
If they're
tendrá
all
esto?
like this, then Pearl Abyss could really have something special on its hands. I'm similarly impressed by the combat system's fundamentals. Yes, it's all quite Fantasy 101. Bows, swords, shields, parries, but it's all delightfully aggressive and properly impactful. There's a seemingly deep combo system too,
Se
and
ve
it's because of
entretenido.
that I wish the demo had had a section that was a little more relaxed for me to sample. The heat of a relentless boss battle isn't quite the space to learn and perfect
Pero
button
para ser un demo
sequences,
aprendió
but I've
bastante
got a
rápido
good feeling you can
los
pull off some
combos y
cool
todo.
stuff based on the combos that I did learn. It's a big green light for Crimson Desert's combat then. As for its adventuring chops, things are looking a little more conventional. Pearl Abyss certainly seems to be making a solid enough transition from the MMORPG design of Black Desert Online into single-player territory.
No podemos
But I
mentir.
don't think
Esto
anything
se ve
shown in
lindo.
the hands-off demo particularly breaks new ground. Much of it is very familiar if you've played the likes of Assassin's Creed or The Witcher 3. Nonetheless, it does look largely well put together. While I do hope that the Abyss artifact storyline goes suitably off the wall, I'd like to see the more typical
Se ve bastante grande. Se ve nice, by the way. Me recuerda mucho. Diatre, qué película. Es más, esto se parece mucho a. Que tiene una mezcla también visualmente. No sé si para la era de los
fantasy
Vikings, de los
storylines find
Vikings por
suitable
ahí.
hooks to
Un
ensure
parecido.
regular gameplay feels more varied and creative than what we've seen so far. With a combat system that shifts from classic sword and board action to slingshotting Spider-Man style round a walking mountain, the questing and exploration side of Crimson Desert ideally also needs to aspire to that kind of diversity. But even if it doesn't, this latest slice of gameplay certainly suggests that the bridges between epic boss battles will be solid,
Eso-
if not the most memorable aspect of the experience. For more from Crimson Desert,
Yo no les voy a mentir. Para mí, el combate de este juego definitivamente se ve mucho mejor que el de Assassin's Creed. Mucho más entretenido que el de Assassin's Creed. By far, mucho mejor para mí que el de Assassin's Creed. Yo, si no lo han visto, dense la vuelta. Nosotros en el canal aquí lo subimos. Y no les voy a mentir. Se ve súper exagerado. Corillo, no olvides que seguirme en donde Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, X, para que vean todo lo que estamos haciendo, sean parte del journey, vacilen con nosotros. Así que antes de irme, como siempre yo les digo, Happy Gaming. Viene, nos vemos.